Okay, good morning, everyone. I can see that there's still a lot of people joining, so we'll give it maybe one more minute before we start. And for those attendees already here, I'd like to say that we are recording the meeting, um, and the recording will be made available soon. Um, while we wait for others to join, I also want to say that please you do use the Q&A function for any questions you may have. I will repeat this in a second when more people join again. But just so it's already mentioned. All right. We're uh we're a bit past 11. I think in light of time we should start. So good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Gordebeke. I'm the project coordinator for the EUCAIM project, which is deploying the Cancer Image Europe infrastructure. And today we have a quick webinar about improving cancer diagnosis and care with imaging and AI. Just so everyone is aware, the webinar is being recorded. The recording will be made available in the next few days on the cancerimage.eu website, alongside of any questions that we answer in writing, and hopefully also a copy of the slides. Today we have a group of speakers from our side. So we have Professor Luis Martí-Bonmati, who is the EUCAIM scientific coordinator. He leads the project in all the scientific and technical aspects in that sense. We have Steve Ebdon-Jackson with us as a patient advocate from the European Society of Radiology's patient advocacy group. We also have Katrine Riklund, who leads the clinical aspects and the clinical implementation from the EUCAIM project, and then Ignacio Blanquer, who's the technical coordinator for the EUCAIM project. So we try to cover all of our bases from the scientific, clinical, and technical sides, and then also a nice perspective from the patient side. On the very right, that's me. I will not speak too much. I will just do the introduction and then also read the questions. Um, Before we dive in, let's have a quick overview of the agenda for today. We're going to start with a quick overview of why EUCAIM matters for patients, then followed by a patient's perspective, and then we'll learn a bit more about how EUCAIM works from a technical aspect, and then also to round things up, how this then translates into the clinical applications and future benefits for patients. At the very end, we have an opportunity for questions and answers. If there's a single or a very prompt question for a particular speaker immediately after their presentation, we can also address that. But like I said, in the end, we have the Q&A session where we can address more questions, and then before before the webinar is closed, we can see there. For the questions itself, please use the Q&A functionality in the Zoom webinar to ask those questions. That's easiest for us to track. If they're in the chat, we might sometimes miss them. So please use the little Q&A button in the bottom of the Zoom window to ask your question. And with that, I'm happy to proceed to our first speaker, Luis Martí-Bonmati, who will give us a quick overview of EUCAIM and why it matters for patients. Please, Luis.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Well, first, it's really my pleasure sharing with you why EUCAIM is being constructed and those aspects that are relevant for the patients. Can we go to the first slide, please?
Yes, just one second.
That's perfect. Well, I will first define the strategy of EUCAIM. the different roles within this platform and why we do understand the relevance of this infrastructure. This is a research infrastructure. What we are doing there is centralizing medical imaging plus associated data. We want to provide a robust work plan driving the future of cancer imaging and allowing researchers to develop, train, and find the best solutions by AI, using AI for the benefit of the patients. So as you know, this is a flagship associated with Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. So in our understanding, we are helping to improve all the pathway patients with cancer are having today, and where we have to recognize that medical imaging is an extremely relevant aspect to detect the lesion, evaluate their characteristics and extension, and check for follow-up. So I will give an overview of the mission and vision and how hospital researchers and innovators are engaged. Next slide, Peter, please. Here within our mission and vision, we really want to allow all the huge amount of medical images that are currently stored in so many different places to be accessed by researchers so they can be safely reused for research. And we really need a huge amount of data to train AI models. Next, please. By connecting more than 60 million, next picture, 60 million anonymized images, we do understand that we will enhance cancer diagnosis and treatment allocation, develop and benchmarking the best AI tools and models in this precision medicine pathway. And also, we will do that creating a federated, secure processing environment, as we will see later. And we are so happy that we have so many partners from universities, hospitals, and also companies. We do have European research infrastructures engaged on this platform, and several other medtech industries. Next. Peter, this is the overall view. On your right, you have our work centralizing access to data on already existing repositories for research. And on the left, centralizing access to hospitals and screening programs, allowing researchers to expose their AI tools to a huge amount of data, guaranteeing that those models are precise, reproducible, and do have an impact in patients' care. Next, please, Peter. So we do not only have data, data is important, but to harnessing this power of data, we want to allocate, catalog, and push the construction and training of tools, but also research communities, meaning radiologists, engineers, data scientists, clinicians, on the so many different cancer types we do have within EUCAIM. Next. That will allow data to be integrated, because although medical imaging is the pillar of this infrastructure, it has to be annotated with clinical laboratory pathology data as needed to develop these actionable biomarkers and AI models. Next, please. And by doing that, we will improve the outcomes for cancer patients. This is really our main mission with this platform. Next. Now, to do that, data, and that's extremely important, we are constructing the infrastructure following all the research guidelines and European regulatory issues regarding how data is stored, or findable, it's accessible in an interoperable way and reusable. And we are following all these standards in a secure and processing environment. Next, please. We also are allocating tools, AI tools, to anonymize or pseudonymize data, harmonize all the data and medical images, allowing images obtained with different machines to be comparable. We do have annotation tools for sequences, series, organs, and segmentations. We also have tools for fairness, evaluator, validator, and advisor, and tools for just to check on the data quality and also data curation. So this is an overview of those tools we are providing to researchers. Next one. Here, I want to, and it will be discussed later by Ignacio, but this is the pathway of the users going through the so many different catalogs and committees to finally be able to use the data. We will see later in Dr. Blanquer presentation. Next, please. And this is something I really want to highlight. We are focusing in the platform to do research in the right way to really help patients at the end. And we are deeply working on image harmonization. And I said that means providing a vendor protocol neutral framework. We do have tools, and we are working on annotation and segmentation of organs and tumors and labeling of those structures. And we also are working on those tools that will provide the hidden properties of the lesions. That means radiomic features, parameters, and deep features to be able to estimate what's going to happen. Which type of tumor do I have, which is my prognosis, which is the best treatment I should be provided with. Next. Next, please, Peter. Okay. So the reason for that is because we want to also integrate these features obtained from medical imaging with clinical, laboratory, and pathological findings to finally, in an explainable way, help clinicians and patients to take the best decisions in every clinical situation. At the beginning, what do I have? On the follow-up, did I respond to treatment? And on the further follow-up, do I expect any complication from the treatment, as an example? Next slide. And this is something I really want to highlight. We are also helping companies from discovery to use, accelerating innovations in cancer diagnosis and treatment. The pipeline today from the production of an idea to finally clearance on the market is at least 30 months. And with the use of the EUCAIM infrastructure, next, please, Peter, we understood we can shorten most of these periods to allow companies and SMEs to clear their products on the market to allow transfer into clinical practice in much less time, only in 20 months. Next, please. We also want to provide this infrastructure not only for the period of the construction, but also for the construction of the European health data space. EUCAIM is expected to be an European Digital Innovation Consortium with legal entity, being an authorized participant within the landscape of data at the European level. Next, please. And this is my last slide on the benefits in summary. And we have benefits for researchers, providing data and tools and communities of colleagues, benefits for innovators as a reference framework with standardized data and catalog to facilitate certification, benefits for physicians with new diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment information on every single patient. But most important, and this is the topic for today, next please, we do have and we do foresee benefit for citizens, because with the use of this infrastructure, we will improve, and we expect to do so, the quality of life through early personalized diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis in patients with cancer. And this was my overall view on the vision and mission of the infrastructure. And I'm so proud to be here with the questions we will have at the end.
Thank you so much, Luis. I do not see any open questions right now. So in light of time, I think we would proceed to Steve's presentation. I will just pull up the slides and then we can immediately dive in. Okay, here we go. Steve, please take the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I've been asked to provide a patient's perspective. It's a patient. It might not be every patient, but I'll do my best to be representative when I can. On the next slide, please. I would just like to say I have no conflicts of interest. And the next slide, please. This is effectively what I've been asked to talk about, to give some impression about the importance of AI. And AI is something that everyone is aware of, but nobody really understands. Generalization there. How AI will support imaging and how this could impact on cancer care. And finally, a more general subject about the role of patient engagement in shaping better cancer care. I can't say very much in the time I've got, but let's give an overall impression. So on the next slide, please. Before answering the questions, we should step back and ask, what do patients want? Cancer patients want fast and accurate diagnosis. They want timely and effective treatment, responsive follow-up, and to be cared for in an ethical way. And I think it's very important to see these as different phases of a patient's cancer journey. And at each phase, we want to feel that the consideration and the care is there all the way through. And this is not just about health, this is about well-being as well. The cancer journey is physically difficult, emotionally difficult, and psychologically difficult for many patients. And so throughout that journey, we want to be treated ethically. Next slide, please. Now, I'm not going to talk about medical ethics and ethics values. That's a talk for another day. But basically, cancer patients today want to be involved in the decision-making around their care. They want the treatment to be as pain and risk-free as possible. And they want to have an open dialogue with the clinicians that are representing and caring for them. Fundamentally, they want to be treated with empathy. And although it's difficult to define sometimes what that means, if I am a patient, I want to be treated as an individual that matters, not just a statistic or just another case. On the next slide, please. So let's now move on to trust in AI. AI has emerged and it affects all elements of our lives, not just our health, but all things that we are encountering. And it's new, and for many people, it's uncontrollable. It can be considered that something's going on in the background. We have no access to it. We have no influence over it. And if we believe some of the stories, it's dangerous. It certainly can be. It's not always truthful. There are lots of examples. We all have personal examples where AI lies, or at least gives you the wrong information. And AI is not always transparent, and transparency is important. It's particularly important in healthcare. People fear the unknown. And if we're going to build trust in AI, we need to recognize that trust is built on an emotional reaction as well as logic. AI is based in logic, but our emotional reaction to it is very different. Next slide, please. The reality is, though, that the trust in AI varies, and it varies by gender and age. And I don't wish to go into specifics about this, but we can all imagine that depending on your age and your exposure and your understanding, you may feel more wary. Our gender influences very much how we encounter AI. And it's not consistent across all, but it does have an influence in many areas. So we need to recognize these stumbling blocks for AI's acceptance. We are fortunate, in fact, in medicine. There is research that suggests that the public's reaction to AI in medicine is actually quite positive, particularly with things like drug innovation. It's recognized that AI can speed things up, make things come to our care far faster than without. So on that basis, AI is positive. There's a positive reaction to AI, and we should build on this. Let's not be afraid of building on success. There's no doubt that if we understand as patients, if we understand AI and what it's doing for us, it will improve our trust in AI. And therefore, it's the community's responsibility to communicate the value of AI to patients and make it more understandable and more accessible in terms of understanding. And so fundamentally, trust in AI will grow if we recognize what it is. And what I think most patients want is that for AI to be a tool, not to replace the patient-clinician relationship, or indeed replace the clinician at all, but we want that tool to be available to the clinician so that it can aid our care throughout our pathway. So on the next slide, please. How can AI-supported imaging impact on our care? Well, we believe that it can improve accuracy and remove operator bias. And if we do that, we can remove some degree of uncertainty. And uncertainty is something that, in general, human beings aren't very good at coping with. So on that basis, if AI can improve that, then it's a good thing. In practical terms, if we can speed up diagnosis and subsequent patient care can be changed and made more personal, then AI has to be accepted as a good thing. And I believe it can do those things. So in terms of the patient's pathway and that responsiveness, AI in imaging is going to be just part of AI in general in the way AI interacts with our healthcare and our healthcare potential. And at the bottom line, in practical terms, if we can free up time for clinicians to use their time more effectively in terms of their interaction with patients, or indeed in terms of providing radiological services, then AI again has had an impressive and important impact on our care pathway. And on the next slide, please. I would like to give an example of this, which maybe is obvious, but bears saying again. Providing information to patients, which is patient-centered, is really important. That might present itself in an image which has been gone through a process utilizing AI to make a diagnosis clearer for the patient, or indeed an AI-generated radiology report which takes away some of the detail and jargon but makes clear to the patient what's going on. This is part of shared decision making. And in terms of imaging, presenting images to patients, we should never underestimate the power of a visual image. It really does help to bring the patient's feeling that they are there, it is them, and it is important, and they are being treated as an individual. So on the next slide, please. How can we, in general, help shape cancer care to be more responsive to the needs of patients in the 21st century? We need to understand what patients want and what they need. Understanding patients' wants and needs will help frame services in the future and will help to better utilise resources. If patients cooperate on every level, then better cooperation produces better outcomes for that individual and for the society as a whole, because if services are being used more effectively, then clearly that's better for more than one individual patient. Engaging with patients also can help us reflect on what patients want and need and may result in priority changes if we're looking at how we deliver services. And I go back to this point that cancer care is not just about health, it's about emotional well-being throughout the cancer journey. So I'd like to finish with a final example and a personal plea, I suppose. If we think about the way we have the phases of cancer care, we have diagnosis, we have treatment, and we have follow-up. And in terms of a mindset, there is an example or two we can all think of where once we're into a follow-up phase, the attitude is slightly different. Maybe the interest isn't as great. And so maybe we don't get the reports as quickly, or the care is not just as intense as it was during treatment or that early diagnostic phase. Yet for many patients, when we have our follow-up scans and other tests, waiting for those results is just as emotionally draining as finding that first diagnosis. So in fact, by understanding this, we may find that we can reduce the stress for patients, improve their well-being by reshaping the services to reflect that. Every follow-up may confirm that cancer has returned, and we shouldn't underestimate the emotional burden that brings to patients. So in summary, I'd like to thank you for involving me in this webinar. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the success of this particular initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Steve. I think that's a very, very important perspective that we've heard here. We do have one question for you, and I think it's a good time to address this. Although I don't know if this is particularly something that you can answer, but also looking to the others in the webinar. We have a question from Carlos who asks, how can we enhance model explainability to ensure this greater transparency that you mentioned in decision making and communication towards patients?
I think my own view is that to a certain degree we have to simplify, but we don't have to dumb down, if you'll pardon the expression. It's very important for patients to try and understand what's going on, and it's impossible for patients to have the same knowledge as any expert. We haven't had the training, etc., etc. But having a general understanding of what's going on is really important for compliance. I'm not sure how we can do it in terms of AI models. I think we're at an early stage of doing that, but just showing the output that AI can do and how that can improve our understanding is really important, and sharing our own experience of it. If a clinician can turn around and say, by using AI and that model, we managed to enhance the images in such a way that we could see something quicker, and here's this non-AI image, an AI'd image, if you pardon the expression, then these sorts of expressions and practical demonstrations can be really useful. But in general, I think this is a process that we're going to have to learn as we go along. But we shouldn't forget that that's important.
Maybe can I just ask something briefly there, because this is an extremely important question. And as Steve was mentioning, we have at least two big issues to consider. One is for those solutions which are, let's say, mechanical, like organ segmentation. We just trust on previous results. I mean, those solutions were tested, validated, checked. So we do not need to understand how the AI software is working, but that the results are consistent, reproducible. On the other part, if we go into models and expectations, what's the prognosis and best treatments, that has to be in some way consistent with previous knowledge, all those variables that are incorporated within the model. And that's why physicians, radiologists, and all the healthcare providers have to be engaged in the development of those models if we want to trust on them based on the validation experiences we did have before. So with whatever we are going to use in clinical practice has to be explainable, robust, understandable, and validated in clinical practice. And that's a huge job for us to do that.
Thank you so much. I think those were very good answers. We do have a number of other questions, but I think in light of time, we should proceed with the next presentation. We've now heard what EUCAIM wants to do. We've heard a patient's perspective as well, so what the important bits are. But now we hear how EUCAIM actually works.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think I hope. Do you hear me well? No, sorry. 1 second. Do you hear me well?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I will try also to answer some of the questions, at least the one related with the time and how it has taken so long at this moment to provide access to the data. And I think that the question from Anna Treatment also can be answered by my colleague Katrine in the following presentation. So I'll try to be very brief here, trying to explain 3 main points that I think are quite relevant for the patients with respect to the federation. First, how is the federation constructed? How is the structure? Which are the architecture that we have implemented? How the data is being provisioned? How are the process for increasing the quality and guaranteeing the anonymization? And how the access to the data is performed? And at this point, I will try to be more precise on some of the details and the questions. So let's start with the federation very briefly. We have 2 scenarios. We have first, the dealing with existing collections that have been collected with in other research projects or clinical trials that have been completed. In this way, we have 3 levels of interoperability. We have the interoperability that I will comment later on at the level of the collection, at the level of the searching models, at the level of the processing. And we have agreements for how to transfer the data, how to share the data. On the other side, we have the collection and the construction from new projects in which we also provide the way of sharing this, of defining the specifications and sharing the model for the specification of the data. For this, we have developed an architecture. They have one central hub, one central node that has the main services for the federation, which is a catalog with the collections, a distributed processing system, an access negotiation system for requesting access to the data, and a federated search for the discoverability, as well as one computing node, several computing nodes that can host data temporarily or permanently and provide computer resources to that. So you will see later on how the data is accessed and how we try to ensure the maximum level of privacy and data sovereignty. So let's go to the first step about the data provisioning. First, understand which type of data are we dealing with in EUCAIM. First, we have the data that describe the collections. So we have collections and we have metadata that describe how many studies, how many images, which are the diagnoses that we have, patient details on the patient demographics, some information about the image modalities, etc. This information is by itself aggregated and anonymous and is publicly available in our catalog. In these cases, the data sets that are only compatible at this level has to be managed directly by the data holders. We only provide a way of showing and providing the access mechanism, the access request mechanism, but data access should be provided directly by the data holders. We have the second level, which is those data that is available for being explored. I mean, it is not only important to know that we have a data set, we have 100 cases of a specific rare disease or one of several thousand patients of breast cancer, but to understand how many of them fulfill some specific inclusion criteria. And this way we have data that fulfills that are compliant in 27 variables for that are being made available for the searching mechanisms. And this is the second level of interoperability and the second level of data that we are managing. And the third one is when we have data that is fully processed in our secure processing environments or our federated processing environment, that fulfills the EUCAIM common data model. That is a model that has hyperontology that defines a large number of variables with respect to the different cancer types that we support in the platform. So these 3 tiers requires a successive process in which the data is being collected, is being pre-processed and prepared for the different levels of interoperability. And in all these 3 steps that are very well detailed or extensively detailed in a handbook that we have for the data holders, we have process of data de-identification and de-identification risk assessments and validation. For us, it's very important that we ensure that the data that is made available in the platform is anonymous fully anonymous. In this case, we have tools that we share and procedures that we recommend with all this manual for this handbook for linking data in the platform. At the same time, we have other steps for increasing the quality, having harmonization, and improving the data that will be shared. We have services that follow the guidelines of the European Health Data Space with respect to the variables, the structuring of the data, considering, for example, the adoption of the Health DCAT IP. So for the patients will have the confidence that the data has been thoroughly analyzed and checked before it is made available for the researchers. The next step is to understand how the data is accessed. So I will take this data user journey that Dr. Luis Martí presented at the very beginning, which shows the process in which the data is requested and accessed. So first we have the data discovery, where the data is, which data do we have, either through our catalog or this federated search. The data users, when they identify the collection that they want to request, they go through our access negotiation. This is an application in which they submit an application to access the data with some additional details, and there's several committees that are being analyzing this data. So in this process, it's taking longer than expected at this moment because we have to deal also with GDPR minimization of the data and some additional steps that are being applied after all the analysis of the access requests. So most of the access requests have been scientifically evaluated and positively evaluated, but we are now in the process of selecting the minimum amount of data that has to be compliant with the data request. And this is the time that is taking long. Unfortunately, we don't have in our platform yet the sub-status to show the progress, but we'll try to improve this and communicate to the applicants about the current real status. Once the data is being, the negotiation has been succeed, the data is being accessed through our secure processing environment or through our federated processing, which federated processing is really being available in the coming weeks. We concentrate all the authorization in a single platform so we can have an easy way of managing this authorization by all the federation. And let me go in detail about all this process. So this process of approval, I want to insist that the data is not made available openly to anyone requested, but has to have a thorough analysis of different steps. So we have an access committee that evaluates the scientific and technical viability. We have a dataset manager who is the responsible that owns the data and has to evaluate if the data is well available in which conditions, and it makes much clearly what it was requested and prepare the sub-collection that has to be made available. And then we have several steps in which we exchange the information, and we will end up with a process in which we provide a set of documents for the signature of a contract for the access of the data. So everyone that accesses the data has to be well identified and follows a similar schema that is being done in the European health data space to guarantee that the purpose is well defined and well assessed by our committees. How the data is accessed? There are two ways. The way that is more, I would say, friendly is the use of a secure processing environment. We have one environment at the UPV and one similar environment at HealthRI, in which we have environments in which the data can be visualized without transferring the data to the local premises. This is mandatory if we consider what will be the regulations that we will find in the European health data space, but also provide a higher level of traceability and data sovereignty. In this way, we can log all the different actions performed by the researchers and the users, who also have the capacity of running processing activities through our batch computing system allocated to the or attached to this this secure processing environment. In this way, there's a guarantee for the patient that the data is not extracted and therefore can be used for different purposes elsewhere. And the other point that we have, I will just speed up a bit, is a federated processing that even allows to process the data without having the capability of visualizing the data, in which the nodes that are being connected can run the processes and provide and return to the data user only the results of the process. In this way, we can even deal with more complex data in terms of privacy. So the data is not visualized, even visualized in this case. So just to end, the European Cancer Imaging Initiative is which is being implemented through EUCAIM, has a federated infrastructure for sharing medical imaging data in cancer, which is medical imaging that the associated clinical records. The federation maintains a high level of serenity. This is a complex environment because federation always means distributed infrastructure, distributed model of operation, distributed and higher level of heterogeneity. And this is the main challenge that we are facing. The federated model follows a compliance of different tiers. That's the approach that we follow for the registry, for discovery and processing. And the services are trying to follow the European Health Data Space regulation. And that's all from my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ignacio. I don't think we've gotten new questions, particularly based on your presentation. We actually have a question from Australia, actually. The question is, how do you manage data coming from different hospitals that have different imaging protocols? For instance, for MRI data, they may have different sequences, different contrast parameters, resolutions, and coverage, and so on. So how is that managed?
Yeah, this is a challenge when we try to put together data sets from different providers. I mean, in the cases, we try to give the maximum information at this level, but we understand that the federated model in cases of the data sets are heterogeneous with respect to the modalities. I mean, we have a heterogeneity. We have reduced the heterogeneity by providing a common data model for the clinical data, and therefore this is reduced. But imagine, despite that we have the same hierarchy of the storing of the preparation of the DICOM data and some additional fields and additional files that describe this, we recognize that there are some differences that are not so easy. So in these cases, I would really suggest to have separate processing in different environments and then gathering the results in a more manual way. That will be the approach that I think is also being considered in the federation of SPEs in the health data space.
Thank you very much, Ignacio. It was a very technical question, of course.
Sorry.
But let's let's proceed with our last speaker. Let's proceed with again returning a bit more towards the clinical applications and future benefits for patients. Katrine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Am I sharing the correct screen?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Perfect. So then I will try to keep us back to what we really are aiming for, because it's of course the clinical applications and the future benefits that is of utmost importance of building this enormous infrastructure. So in some way we have research problem and we would like to find a solution on how to take care of the patients, because patient focus is in the middle of all this work, independent of technical and other challenges that we do have. And as we heard from Ebdon-Jackson, we are using imaging in several different aspects during the patient's journey through a disease. We start imaging with an acquisition, and then we have image data that should be reconstructed, and then we do a lot of analysis. We can do it visually, or we can do it with different software or algorithms, or we can end up with a diagnosis. And we quite often also would like to characterize the disease during different stage of the journey through the healthcare. And then we can also use imaging for treatment planning, treatment follow-up, and we are also very much interested in both prognosis and prediction. And the question is, how can we use all this imaging data to create new tools to help us with different types of AI in the patient journey, which mean we can use AI in several different steps, or different softwares in several different steps during the patient journey. We do this both before and after treatment, and we do it repeated times during the patient journey. So if we then look into what's going on, how are we using AI today? What is the availability of AI for the clinical work? So in some way we have different platforms. This is just two examples on platforms where you can reach a lot of algorithms. If you look into the FDA list, there are more than 800 FDA approved algorithms, but we need to train them a little bit more, to validate them in the surrounding where we would like to use them. And for that we need image material of high quality together with clinical material, clinical information with high quality. So when we have all these together, we can really start to turn the AI, translating more and more into usage in the real world. We are doing a lot of research, but we know that we need to speed up the translation into clinical usage, into the real healthcare, so to say. And what would we like to aim? We have heard some of these already today, that when we have these well-developed tools, we can, of course, increase the workflow speed by automate some repetitive tasks that we are doing in radiology. We know that the amount of image data, the number of images is increasing very, very speedily, and the number of radiologists and nuclear medicine physicians are not increasing in the same way. So we need to find also a way to work more efficiently, of course, with a high accuracy and always with a high quality to take care of the patients. We can also get some help with the triage to identify clinical conditions that need urgent activities, so these patients are not waiting too long. And of course, and maybe what we are using mostly today is to enhance the image reconstruction with different AI-based reconstruction algorithms, which can give a more efficient usage of our scanners, can increase the image quality, and by that also increase the quality of diagnosis, treatment, planning, and follow-up. And of course, we can also use this type of tools to optimize our workflow and at the same time also boost our diagnostic accuracy. So if we look more into the usage of AI tools in imaging for the image data, we will use AI to enhance imaging, to help us radiologists with detection of abnormalities in different types of imaging, such as CT, MRI, PET mammograms, and so on. And we always would like to press the diagnosis earlier and earlier in the patient's history. And for that, we can also use different radiomics, some imaging biomarkers to get quantitative features from the images. Can be used for prediction, prognosis, progression of disease, and also, of course, for treatment response. A lot of work in oncology is to follow up the patients to see whether the treatment has been efficient. If not, if there are new tumors, which is always a risk when you have a cancer diagnosis. And of course, we can get help from AI to segment our tumors, to get help to measure the spread of the disease, to see if we have progression or response or stable disease in the patients. And with all these help of evaluating the image data, we are working in the direction to improve the patient outcomes. We will be faster, we will have accurate diagnosis, we will give the patients possibilities for earlier treatment, for a better and more personalized treatment planning. And of course, we will also work in the direction of using the resources very efficient so patients doesn't have to wait. Today, we are working quite much in different silos. We are trying to combine all these different types of information from imaging, pathology, cytology, different types of omics, and of course, clinical data. And we are doing some type of cognitive integration of all this data to do a personalized evaluation of one and each patient. And of course, our AI tool will help us. So the question is it in the future or are we already in the future? Will we look like integrated computers, humans, when we are getting help with all these different types of information? It's really an overload of information, but with the help of different algorithms, we can combine all this important information for the patients and create individual solution and individual decision with high accuracy for one and each patient. And the balance between the future and the humans at work, well, we will see. We can have the computers in the basement, but the humans should be in close contact with the patients. And all this is being possible when the EUCAIM platform is really up and running and we are using it. And this virtuous circle is really showing that the EUCAIM work, it starts with the healthcare, with data from the healthcare. We are creating possibilities to build new knowledge, to create new medical devices, and in the end, increase and enhance cancer management through personalized medicine, precision imaging. So with this, we can get help as researchers and also innovators, and we have heard different aspects on these benefits. But in the end of the day, the most important thing is that we accelerate the innovation and we accelerate the translation, so all this data is being used for the patients. Of course, we have some challenges, and we have heard of some of them today, and we have to work also with the challenges in order to understand. One challenge is, in fact, the data quality and the bias. But the platform EUCAIM is already up and running in a preliminary mode, and as you heard from Ignacio, it will be even more developed during the project period. But if you look into the platform today, we already have 83 datasets from more than 106,000 patients visible at the platform. And we have more or less a queue with incoming data for more than 141,000 more subjects distributed with different tumor types, different modalities, different number of patients. And of course, this is a very large number of image data that can be used for research and development to really, really increase the high quality number of algorithms for cancer patients to start with. Ignacio told you a little bit of the process when you would like to use the platform, and just visit the EUCAIM platform, and you can see different way in to be part of the platform as a data holder or data user in the order to take better care of our cancer patients in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katrine. I think this was a very nice conclusion and roundup as a summary. We do have around 3-4 more minutes and a couple more questions. I think some of them are from the start of the webinar. I'll go through them and see how far we can get. So the first one is basically more of a comment or a suggestion rather than a question. It's basically saying that it would be great to incorporate patient queries perhaps into the EUCAIM platform as well as a basis for developing future AI models, and that could perhaps be a good start following this webinar. The next point that was raised was whether or not we think that training focused on digital skills and AI organized by patient organization would support the wished for transparency and increasing trust on AI as a partner for clinicians. So maybe, Steve, this is something mainly for you.
I think patient-focused information is really important, but I don't know that it's so valuable to develop it in isolation. I think it should be part and parcel of the whole process. And I think this comes back to the idea of shared decision-making or shared involvement from the patient within healthcare and all elements of the healthcare. So I agree we need to work out how we can engage with patients and embrace and empower them. But I think it's not necessarily the right thing to do it as an independent activity.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Fully agree. Just to also share that we recognize that digital and AI literacy in some way for the society is a must. I mean, we have to not go deeply into what's behind, but understanding in a general overview what's happening. And we will make the best in our website and platform to provide a space where clearly most of the aspects are written in a way that will help anyone, irrespectively of the background, to understand what are we doing. That will be really relevant and important.
Yes.
Great. And then one other interesting question was raised is if we have encountered any primary biases in diagnostic modeling and how we approached or mitigated this. So again, maybe a bit more on the technical side, but I think any time bias is mentioned, that's always good to know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I can say something there. I mean, bias is everywhere, and we understand that, and we are doing our best to help researchers to avoid biases. And that's why we offer so many AI solutions for data curation, data harmonization, series annotation, synthetic data, exploration of data, methodology on biases. I mean, we fully recognize that. And part of the relevance of this huge platform is to help researchers and SMEs and companies to reduce biases on whatever model they are working with.
Yes, thank you. I think the last question we have for today is something I can perhaps try to answer myself, is whether or not we are considering obtaining tumor cardiac MR data. I think Katrine showed very nicely that we are always looking for more interesting data sets. So if there is something related to cancer images, we hope that the Cancer Imager platform is the right platform for that data. So in that sense, tumor cardiac MR data, maybe please reach out. It could, of course, be something that we're interested in if all the other conditions are right. So just get in touch with us, and we can then take it for there. Right, and then we have one last question, but this is really something we will probably do in writing. It's the what the difference is between EIBIR and EUCAIM and what their relation is. I think this is a bit beyond the scope of this webinar. So we will get back to you in writing about this. That said, though, we've reached the end of our allotted time. I'd like to thank all of our speakers and also the attendees for the interesting questions. I think we've received a nice overview of what EUCAIM is and how it can align with what patients really need and what patients want, particularly in this field where now AI is becoming more and more prevalent. And I think we all need to catch up in our communication about this. So thank you very much. We will make sure that the recording of this webinar will be made available in the coming days, in addition to the questions and of course our slides. So please go visit cancerimage.eu for more information, and you'll see the recording pop up there as well. So thanks again, everyone. Hope you have a nice day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.